Okay, so first things first, Ash's creation is dead. If you didn't know, it's dead. We got a message from Steven Sharif on the Discord that says, I can make a limited statement in my personal capacity and not on behalf of the company regarding the situation. Control of the company shifted away from me, and the board, which we've never heard of before, began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out. As a result, I chose to resign in protest rather than lend my name or authority to decisions I could not ethically support. Following my resignation, much of the senior leadership team resigned. Following those departures, the board made the decision to issue the WARN Act notices and proceed with mass layoffs. That means that everybody's going to be laid off within 60 days. I cannot responsibly speak to further details at this time due to ongoing legal and governance matters. What I can say is the developers and staff acted in good faith and deserve better than the uncertainty they are now facing. I'm incredibly dismayed by the situation. This is from Steven. The problem that I have right now is I quit this game 4 days ago. So 4 days ago, I actually was in a talk with Steven Sharif and Margaret because we have a group DM in there. It's myself, one of their QA people, Margaret, Steven Sharif, and Kronos. Talking about everything that I have with the game. It was our channel as a content creator to talk with the devs, to tell them everything that was going on. And I was sending them stuff back and forth with this, and I was like, hey, we got a serious moderation problem on the server. And we started linking them things. There was a guy that was actually posting comments about Jewish people every day, all day, right? He was just doing that every single day, all day. And the account would just change every single day. Guy never got banned. We had a guy that was saying that he wanted to form a group to go kill all the LGBT people on the server. We got a screenshot of that, sent it up to them. Guy never got banned. We had a guy that was claiming that, there was people that were saying all kinds of heinous shit, basically. Like, if I could go through the whole list, but it's a ton of them. It's like dozens of people, and people all over the server were dealing with this and seeing it in global at all times. When I brought this up to them, what led me to quit the game was actually this response from Margaret, which I have right here. This is from our group DM. And in this, she wrote this: to be transparent about what happened on our end, we investigated the reports you and others submitted, because there's a lot of people submitting these. The messages in question occurred within a very short window, roughly a 15-minute span, and involved only a handful of posts. Where some of this language used was inappropriate and unacceptable, our current moderation framework does not always move directly to permanent bans for first-time offenses of this nature. In many cases, we issue warnings first, with the expectation that behavior can improve. If it doesn't, we escalate. I think this makes sense for minor infractions. You rage out, you crash out, fine. But when you have a dude that's sitting on the server praising Hitler every minute on the minute, or saying that he wants to get a group together to kill gay people, you probably should ban that person. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't feel like that's a stretch to ban that guy. And those were the ones we were reporting, and they didn't do it. This made me quit the game. So I quit on, I believe, the 28th is when I made my announcement about this. I told the whole guild about it. I was like, I'm out, dude. I can't do this shit anymore. And a lot of people in the guild were like, I don't want to support that either. This is insane. It's awful to watch, and they didn't want to deal with it. So quit, and then 4 days later, they killed the company. Which is wild, but that's it. So since then, a bunch of stuff has actually come out, and we've learned a lot about kind of the infrastructure in the company and like the power dynamics of the costs and things. But the thing that I want to call out the most, the thing that really bothers me about this, is the mention of a board. The board has never existed to us as players, ever. That has never been brought up in all the years that I've been doing this. And I've owned Ash's Creation since 2021. I have owned it since then. They have never spoken about this. The first time we've ever heard about this. So I was like, what the hell is that? So I started reaching out to some of the employees that we know that we've been talking to this entire time. One of them talked back to me and he said, anonymity, if I could speak. Under the condition of anonymity, he told me that 6 months ago they formed a board, and that's all that they know. And since then, the company has gone downhill. I have to take that with a grain of salt. I have no way of proving that guy's claim, but it does align with some of the shit that we've seen. Last year, Phase 2, 2.5, the game was in a good state from January until about March in 2025. I played the shit out of the game, dude. I have thousands of hours in it. So at around March, things started to go downhill. It started to turn to shit. It was in a good state up until about March. It was super fun up until about March. January to March area, right? In the very beginning. And then from there, it just went downhill. Stuff stopped getting fixed. Moderation turned into a shit show. Everything was getting really, really bad. It was super bad. And it sucked because I had already put myself on the line to be like, hey, the devs are doing a good job, because they were at the time. But that changed really rapidly. I ended up quitting during Phase 2.5 because of the state of the economics inside of the game. I came back for Phase 2.5 still, even though they launched on Steam, played it again, and the economics were better, the gameplay experience was better from 1 to 8, and everything felt good up until you got to endgame. And then it turned back into the same thing, and they had the exact same moderation issue. This shit has been following them the whole time. They've never actually improved on these things now. They just improved the very, very early game. So with all of that in mind, we're like, okay, all of this shit is dead now. What the hell is going on? Do people get refunds? Anything like that. So we start looking back through stuff. Let's go into Kickstarter. In their Kickstarter, they list under this, in the case that Ashes of Creation does not launch, we promise to refund all backers in full. This is the first time that I've seen anything that Ashes has done that to me feels like a scam. And the reason why is because technically, this is a launch. Technically, this is a launch. They randomly put it up on Steam after never saying that they were going to put it up on Steam. The whole development cycle, they're like, no, that's not what we're looking at this time, not what we're looking at this time. In a really weird state, we're not able to update it correctly. Everything was broken, unmoderated, a shit show, and then killed the company. And this right here makes me believe that they are not going to be issuing refunds because this is technically launched into early access. And the only way that you will upend that is in a court of law. Not on Twitter, not in comments, in court. And that sucks because that means anybody that was a backer of this will never see a dime. I will also never see a dime. I paid in 2021, not through this. I paid through their website, and it was $375, which is a lot of money, right? And I did that because I believed in the vision there. And the reason that I believed in the vision is because Steven, at that time, said that he had no board. There was no backers. There was nothing. There was no one to tell him what to do, and he had a great vision of the game. He was good at selling that vision and explaining it to people. So then we go a little bit farther than that. We're like, okay, well, who the hell's the board? Well, we pulled up their records. There is no board on here. We have officer names, Stephen Sharif and John Moore. They are listed entirely as Chief Executive Officer and Secretary and the Chief Financial Officer. I've removed the addresses from this, right? And down here under the Board of Directors, you have Stephen Sharif. He's the only one on that board. So if they're talking about a board, they're not talking about the Board of Directors on paper for the corporation. They're talking about something else. Maybe an executive board, maybe, investors in some way. But the part that's really interesting about this is this right here. Control of the company shifted away from me, and the board began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out. How did the board have that much power without having a commanding stake? They can make their voices heard, but I'm really interested to understand what the power dynamics inside of the company were to allow for that kind of behavior, because that's not generally normal, as far as I know. I could be wrong about that, but I don't feel like that's generally normal. This is weird, and the idea that they're also not board members on paper for the directors is also kind of weird, right? This doesn't make sense. Sounds like what happened to Apple. Could be, but I don't know, and we don't know, and anything from there is conjecture. So I was like, okay, that's kind of a dead end of information. We've got as much as we can there. Let's go look into why it went this way. So we pulled them up on LinkedIn. Let's go grab this on LinkedIn. You can see this. This is actually a breakdown of all of their employees that have LinkedIn accounts. And you'll see something really weird here. Arts and design. That's all of your artists, all of your designers in the game. Engineers, 65. Arts and design, 101. This makes sense. The thing that they were trying to push the most was the quests, the world expansion, and their server tech system of being able to do server workers that mesh together. That kind of fits their objectives and their goals, right? And it makes sense completely that they were having so many employees in these areas. The part where it starts to break down and not make sense is, how do you have 9 quality assurance employees? 9? Like, the general standard is 1 to 2 quality assurance employees per developer. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Even with automation, you could cut that down to maybe half a QA person per dev, but 9 for an employee base of 206 on LinkedIn and 250 of what has been claimed? That doesn't make any sense. That's incredibly weird. None of that makes sense. Hey, look, my crab died. Can't have EXP loss, even during the video. Get over there. Kill that crab. More strength. So, this is really weird. And it kind of makes sense. From an anecdotal perspective, I'll give you an example of why this makes sense to me, of why they did this. I don't think it makes sense in a business sense, but it makes sense as to the number. During our phase, in this last one, I became the mayor of Brine Barrel. Got elected, right? That town was broken. It didn't have a mount. We didn't know that at the time, but once we found out, I immediately went to Steven. I was like, yo, our town doesn't have a flying mount. Can you guys give me one so we could like play the game as the mayor, right? Because that's the whole point of becoming a mayor, is getting the damn flying mount and then running the town. So he said, I'm going to get QA on it. He told QA said they'd be there right away. I went to our town hall, and I was told it'll be just a couple of minutes. I sat there for an hour and a half until they finally showed up, and they were not able to give me the mount because there was no mount assigned to our town. So if they gave me a mount, it'd instantly get deleted. So they gave me a cosmetic mount with 0% movement speed. After an hour and a half of waiting, that QA team was overburdened as shit. And now understand, that's an anecdotal story. But watching that was wild, dude. That shit is insane to me. Yeah, absolutely bonkers. Does not make any sense. So you should not have that few QA people, and it shouldn't take them an hour and a half to respond to that. And I shouldn't have gotten a Temu mount. Exactly. Then we go on to the next thing, and I'm going to grab this. A lot of people are saying like, oh, Narc was right. Narc was right. Narc lied about the desert. This was like a big deal in the game, right? He made a bunch of statements of saying that the company was bullshit, that it was a bunch of scams going on and everything like that. And then he based all of that on visual evidence of the desert being fake, being empty. And I proved in a video that was not correct, right? I proved in a video showing, no, the desert's actually really full of stuff. This doesn't make any sense. Today, I now realize why he was upset. And the reason he was upset actually had nothing to do with that. Narc was a big content creator for the game. He was well loved by the devs, and they talked to him all the time. And eventually, Narc stopped getting that communication. He complained about it quite a lot. He complained about it a huge amount in his videos. The part that's really interesting about this is I didn't understand why they would do that at the time. But I think the reason why is they threw away their old toy and they started talking to me because I was the biggest content creator in the scene for the game suddenly. And then when I started standing up to Steven, they did the same thing to me. I'll show you what I sent him. This is a write-up that I actually sent to Steven Sharif and to Margaret about one of their features, which is sport fishing. Sport fishing was directly added to the game as a one-to-one copy from ArchAge. Directly one-to-one copy. No iteration, no innovation, nothing changed in the gameplay behavior at all. They even put all similar models for everything, including iconography. And I brought this up directly to them, and I said, this is exactly the same gameplay loop, interactions, iconography, and boat design to accomplish the task. There's nothing iterative on this design, and it is not unique in any way. I'm extremely disappointed to see this in Ashes, and it makes it feel like an ArchAge private server instead of an up-and-coming MMO that stands on its own. I give critiques to the game all the time, and I'd sent it to him in the past, but this one seems to have hit a nerve because Steven never responded to it. In fact, he never spoke to me again, which is wild. That happened on January 3rd. We used to have conversations all the time, but the moment I did this, not anymore. And if that was what happened to Narc, because he started calling out things that didn't make sense, and they just moved on, I could understand why he'd be upset. I get it. Even if he tried to use the desert as a reasoning behind his anger, and that desert claim was not real, I can understand why he was mad. If he was a big content creator for the game and suddenly the devs just cut him off because he gave valid critique. And when I'm talking about this, if you don't think this critique is valid, let me show you this. This right here is a boat from Ashes of Creation. You can see that there's a radar down here, and there's these ramps going down the back of the boat, and it's got this general boat design. This right here is the same boat from ArchAge. And you'll see that it has a radar and the same boat design and the same ramps. The reason why those ramps exist is because in ArchAge, when you go out and you fish up things in sport fishing, you actually do a mini game where you deal damage to the fish. Where you pull left and right, it does 1 damage. You pull up and down, it does a bunch of damage. And the fish dies in the water when you win. You have to jump in the water and pick it up and go take it back out onto the boat using these ramps. That is what is required for that. And the reason they did that is because if your boat died in ArchAge, you could repair it for 1 gold. So there needed to be a point of friction to make it so that players had a little bit more risk doing the activity so they weren't just printing gold. Something that made them stay out there for a little bit longer so someone could go and kill them. It's a little bit more danger. So they did that. That was their gameplay loop. It tied into their economics and it tied into the gameplay, and it was a fun, interesting design that was unique. Let's go over to Ashes. Direct copy-paste of the entire system. Direct copy-paste of the boat design. But here's the problem. Ashes of Creation didn't have a boat repair feature. It costs you 18 gold or 25 gold, depending on which boat would die. And because of that, when your boat died, you didn't get it back. It was gone. And that's like 25 to 50 fish to go and rebuild the damn thing, even before you get into the cost of parts from other crafters. So jumping into the water for this doesn't make sense anymore. You're already risking a shitload by being out there. They copy-pasted this system, but they didn't understand the economics underlying it. They didn't understand why it was built this way. They just knew how it was built this way. So they copy-pasted it wholesale. The moment I sent this, never got communication from him again. Every response I got from Margaret from that point on was corporate, entirely corporate speak. I was no longer in favor. And I think that's what happened to Narc, man. I really do think that's what happened to Narc. Because this is, to me, this is super valid criticism. Steven loved ArchAge. Absolutely loved it. Big player into it. And this is a direct copy-paste from his favorite game as the game director of the game with no changes. Nothing. So where does this leave us, man? Game's dead. Game's super dead. I don't think we're going to get refunds, and I think the most likely interaction here is that the debtors that are owed right now are likely going to carve it up and sell pieces off. You're going to see a liquidation of the company. They'll take all the components. They'll sell them off. I mean, they've got a shitload of assets. They've got thousands of assets for the game. So I don't think there's going to be like a hightail situation. I don't think it'll be, purchased by a third party and then revived. I think it is more likely it will be liquidated and it will be used to pay off the debtors and then go from there. And I think overall, I find this situation to feel very greasy. I find it to be very greasy. And the lack of moderation on the servers was just telling for deeper problems. Yeah, it was a cool project. I agree. I do seriously agree with that. But I don't think it's going to succeed with that. So the last piece of this, actually probably second to last piece of this, we've got this. Now understand, this image is going to be an unconfirmed claim, right? We received this from people who claim that they were employees of the company. It looks real. We've received it from a number of people that we know were employees for the company, but I don't have a way to prove this to you. So take it with a grain of salt. Even though I believe it is real, it doesn't mean that it is, right? I just have every indication that it appears real. So it says, "Dear team, this is a difficult message to send, and we recognize how unsettling it may be to receive. Due to the company's current financial condition, Intrepid Studios is providing this notice pursuant to Workers' Adjustment and Retraining Notification, the WARN Act. This notice is being issued to all employees as a precautionary measure while the company evaluates next steps. At this time, no final decisions have been made regarding which positions may be impacted. A portion of the team may be asked to continue working as the company evaluates operational and financial alternatives. Others may be affected at a reduction in workforce of the company if unable to move forward in its current form. Employees who are impacted will be notified directly with additional information. With respect to compensation, payroll scheduled for February 1st cannot be processed at this time due to the company's current financial condition. The company is reviewing its obligations and options and will share updates as soon as possible. Regarding benefits, health benefits, company-sponsored health insurance coverage may be affected by changes in employment status. Information regarding benefit continuation options, including COBRA, is expected to be provided by the plan administrator early next week. That information may include important timing considerations, and we encourage you to review it carefully once received." Let me translate this for you from Corpo. We're not paying you, and you're going to lose your health care. Does that make sense? So with that in mind, let's look at something here. This is Steam's documentation on when payments go out. And this is like wild to me. When can I expect the payment, right? We pay out by the 30th of the month following sales. For example, we will pay you for calendar February month sales by March 30th. It may take a few business days for the payment to post to your bank account. In that case, you may see the payment in your bank account during the first few days of April, following the example above. I have been selling games on Steam for the going on about 8 years. We have 2 games that are up on Steam. I went back and looked. I receive all of my payments from the 26th to the 30th, like clockwork, from Steam, or from Valve, rather, every single month. They also split it out based on which product is selling, what part of the world it's selling in. You get a lot of data as a developer. With that in mind, this leads me to believe that if the same deal's going on for them, regardless of the size of payment, they put this out on December 11th, 2025. That means that they likely got paid for this already in January, on January 26th to 30th. If they can't pay their employees, where'd the money go? That's the big question I have here. If they're choosing to not pay their employees, where is the money from their Steam sales? And we don't have an answer for that. And I think that's really weird and very bad. Yeah, where's the money, Lebowski? Exactly. Where's the money? So if you look at this right here, you've got December 11th, right? And someone said there's a chance that they hold it for 2 months during launches. I went back and looked at our launches. They didn't hold it for 2 months for that. I don't know if that's a new policy, but I can't find it in Steam's documentation. If you can find this in Steam's documentation, please send it to me, because this is all public documentation. You can look through it all yourself. But I don't see anything saying during a launch we hold the money for longer. Anything like that. And that's it. Isn't payout by 30th of January? Yes. So December 11th would be payout by 30th of January. It's currently February 1st. And that's that. Weren't they in debt? They are in debt. But if you're not paying your employees, you're going to run afoul of a lot of different laws there. You're going to run into some serious problems. Let me grab that. All right. So this one is if you go to bizfileonline.sos.ca.gov, a California government website, you can actually go in here and you can look up Intrepid Studios. And you'll find something really interesting. Under this filing number, you'll see that now the secured party info for an active amount of debt, so like the debt for the company, is under Karen L. Boreyko? I don't even know how to pronounce that. It's a weird word. We don't have that in English. Boreyko. Now, let's go and look this up, and you'll see something very interesting come up. They were a co-owner at Vema, and if we look up Vema, there's a Wikipedia article, because that's always a good thing. Vema, a nutrition company, was a privately held multi-level marketing company that sold dietary supplements. The company was shut down in 2015 by the FTC for engaging in deceptive business practices and being a pyramid scheme. The company, based in Tempe, Arizona, was founded in 2004 by Benson K. Lauren and Karen Boreyko. In 2013, the company reported $221 million in revenue. Most distributors were in their 20s. The company had frequently been accused of being a pyramid scheme by U.S. media, business analysts, and former distributors, and was fined by the Italian government. The Boreykos later formed Bode Pro, I guess, in 2017, and merged the legacy Vema products into the new company in 2018, where they continue to be sold. Why are they involved in this now? It smells, dude. Like, it just smells, man. Like, I don't have anything I can say conclusively about that, outside of, man, that smells. It's got a real bad smell, right? A little bit. It's just a bit of a smell, right? Just a little bit. So that goes into a whole side of financial backers and debt management and liens. And to be honest with you, I don't understand that world of things. I can just see on the surface that looks really bad. That's a strange bedfellow to have overall. So with that in mind, I don't like that. I don't like any of this. The way that I feel overall of this now with Ashes of Creation is I'm pretty sad about it, man. Like, I've been backing this game since 2021. I have played it the entire time. I have well over 3,000 hours in the game entirely. I played it hard for a lot of different phases. I was the mayor of multiple nodes, ran massive communities. At one point, we had 50 people. It's 50 people per guild. We had 200 guilds running at the same time simultaneously under the same banner because they wouldn't let you make guilds larger. And like, this time around, we had thousands of players that were involved in it as well. And the thing that got me about this was because of the moderation issues and because of the experience that people have, I cut it off. And I made an announcement to the guild on the 28th of January saying, I can't do this anymore and I don't think you guys deserve this. Because you don't. The players didn't deserve the abuse that they were getting, and they didn't deserve to have developers that just didn't give a shit. And these devs didn't give a shit there. And I've got it in writing that they didn't give a shit because they thought they could fix those people, which was super strange. Couple that with all of this financial backing bullshit and the idea that there's a board that isn't a board that is a board, and it gets really dicey and really gross. And I'm sad about it. I really am. I just feel really negatively overall. And it feels like a shitload of wasted time, even though we had fun in it. Even though we did. Yeah, it does. A board within a board. Yeah, no, it just feels bad, dude. My hope is that lawsuits come out of this and we get to learn more information. But right now, I think anything outside of what we've talked about is speculation unless more new information comes to light. But I do feel that this entire system of bullshit just wasn't necessary. And the direction that they went as a studio wasn't necessary. And the lack of moderation wasn't necessary. And a lot of these felt like really novice missteps for many things throughout the game. Not to mention all the weird bugs and shit that we dealt with that hadn't been fixed in over a year. But like financial bullshit being in this direction and no moderation is just weird, man. People getting refunded, I don't think they're going to get refunded. And we talked about that kind of at the beginning of I don't believe anyone's going to get refunded because of the line on their claim for that. I think the most likely people to be refunded are likely on Steam. And I'll give you an example of who that is. If you go to their Steam page and you go to the bottom and you go down here and you look at purchase type, Steam purchasers, 9,423. Other is 5,002. The other are people that are listed as product received for free, right? Like this person here. The problem with that is we didn't receive it for free. We bought it through Intrepid's website. If we go into here and look at my review, I wrote a massive negative review for the game. Massive. And I listed out all of my grievances and everything like this. And this was written on January 9th, and I edited it on January 10th because I thought better of some of that stuff and I wanted to add more context to other ones. With that in mind, putting this up there, it listed me as product received for free. But I didn't receive it for free. Instead, I bought it through their website. And if I go pull this up right now, I can actually go look at my purchase right now. I've got it up here. We'll grab this for $375 on June 4th, 2021. But because I bought it through her website and then they went to Steam later, it transferred my license to Steam. And it says that I got it for free now. So every single person who already owned the game is listed as for free. So if you want to find out who bought the game through Steam, who actually purchased this, it's actually not even the majority of the community right now that's left a review. The Steam purchasers, the new wave of players, is 2/3 of the reviews. That's massive. Steam purchasers, 9,423. It's 2/3, man. It's 2/3 for that. So, like, I don't know, man. Even going into this, like, we can go into this for a moment. I think this is actually really interesting. This is all the stuff that was listed as being given to me as of purchasing this, and I'll kind of go down this to tell you guys all the stuff we didn't get. The Voyager pre-order pack. This is the one that I bought back in the day. Character name reservation. My character name was actually never reserved, even as a streamer. Ever. Even as the largest streamer for this video game. That never got reserved. In fact, people would steal it every phase, and they would use it to troll. And then I would contact Steven, and Steven would go in and actually delete that character or remove their name and change it to something else so that I would get it. Nobody's character name reservations were ever fulfilled, even though we paid for them. Alpha 2 access key, that got fulfilled, technically. Everything was a shit show, but it got fulfilled. Beta, never happened. Beta 2, never happened. Didn't get those. Pre-order Ember Pack, never got implemented. Steel Reef Pauldron, didn't get that. Geyser Glider, don't even know what that is. Maelstrom's Crown, nope. The only thing I got on this whole list was that. That's the only thing that got delivered to me as a customer. That's it. Dude, you got mega scammed? I feel fine about my purchase. And I know that's weird to say after all of this. I got 3,000 hours of gameplay out of that. I enjoyed my time legitimately in it. And when the developers took a stance that I could not possibly fathom enjoying, like couldn't even fathom being behind them on, I cut cord and walked away because it was gross. And that's it, man. The only thing that I can say unequivocally, like the only thing that to me as a person feels like a scam is that tie-in with their Kickstarter. That feels like that entirely. Yeah, no, I don't think it's cope, dude. I had fun playing the game. Legitimately so, I had fun playing the game. And I think that's the honest opinion that I have. It's more nuanced than just scammed or not scammed. I do think it feels entirely like a scam now. I do think that all these weird background deals and bullshit that they kept from everyone is disgusting. I do. But as a player, I enjoyed myself for the majority of the time that I played that game. Majority of it. Up until the end, when it turned into a shit show. Steam launch was clearly a final cash grab. That's how I feel as well. They never said they wanted to launch on Steam. Anytime anyone brought it up, they said, oh, we're not thinking about that right now. We're not considering a Steam launch. And then suddenly they just launched on Steam. Out of nowhere. For me, I feel like they did that because of this obligation that was listed on their Kickstarter. Finally, in that case, Ash's Creation does not launch. We promise to refund all backers in full. And this Kickstarter was $3,271,000. That's a shitload of money. So by launching on Steam in a shitty state and getting thousands and thousands of more sales, they have technically, potentially, have to be proven in court, fulfilled that obligation. That sucks. Because it's technically launched. Technically. But we'll see. I don't know if there's going to be a court case over it or not. I will tell you if there's a class action lawsuit, generally class actions don't get you as a customer a goddamn dime. They don't. It's about punishing the company. It's usually not about getting you any money. So even if there's a class action, there's no real chance of getting a refund from that. Not really. Oh yeah, also for the people who are getting their Steam refund rejected because of over 2 hours, I would send in a support ticket to Steam, not just a refund request. I'd send in that support ticket and I'd do that. And the reason why I would do that is because this same kind of situation happened with the launch of No Man's Sky. Long before No Man's Sky fixed the game, their launch was a shit show. They lied about the features of the game. It was bad. And Steam refused to refund it. until they allowed it to be refunded. They've done this, I think, with Fallout 76 as well and a couple other games throughout their time on there. I think they did it for Helldivers too. So, like, they've done this in the past. Send them in tickets, explain to them the situation that's going on. And if enough people do it, Steam will always choose the consumer. Always. Because it's a mark on them as a platform. So send them in a ticket and be like, yo. Yeah, still impressed they turned it around. Yeah, oh yeah, No Man's Sky is in an amazing state now. I was blown away. And don't be a dick. That's the most important thing. If you're putting that in, don't be like, you owe me this. Just be like, hey man, this is the situation. They've just destroyed the game. And they've done this in just like a horrible way. Like the developer is gone, the company's collapsing. They like what they did, you know, and Steam won't want to be associated with what appears to be a rug pull, right? But like, just don't be like, you owe me, mean Mr. John Steamman. Don't do that, right? This sucks, man. This sucks. And if you are out there and you played this game because of me, I'm sorry that you bought into it. I am. I was very passionate about this game. I enjoyed this game very much. I tried to do my best to temper people's expectations with that. The thing that I always went down was like a checklist when someone said, should I buy this? And I would say like, hey man, have you ever played a social sandbox game before? If you haven't, you might want to try Albion because it's free. They're very different from, you know, World of Warcraft. And then from there, I was like, hey man, are you cool with playing an alpha that's really broken, full of bugs? Are you cool with your character being deleted? So like I tried to temper it as best I could, but I know there are people that played this because I played it, you know, and I hope you don't feel shitty about that because that sucks. You didn't feel so bad? Okay, good. I'm glad, man. Because like that upsets the shit out of me, dude. Because like, dude, I don't know, dude. I'm a streamer. I could afford the loss for me, but some people did it, and they, you know, it could be financially taxing for them, and they just feel really negative about it. Dude, I just feel bad about it. It's not your fault. I liked it and enjoyed my brief time with it. I'm glad. I'm really glad. It's not your fault they effed it up the wall. The biggest thing that I can tell you is I have been there. I was trying to teach people how to do bug reports. I was trying to tell the developers everything we were doing. We turned in thousands of bugs as a community, man. We turned in thousands. And, like, they just didn't fix shit at a certain point. Like, after March of 2025, when stuff started to go really downhill, they just stopped. Like, we turned in all kinds of shit. Like, gathering quests from level 1 to 10 in most of the nodes just didn't work. And that made it so it was impossible to level. We turned that in. That never got fixed, even a year later. Like, it's just like a really simple one, too, of like this, it just doesn't function. The game is gone, the community stays? Yes. Our actual Pirates Discord has about 10,000 players in it, inside of that one Discord made only for this game. I am going to repurpose it to be a different video game. We're going to push it to something else. I don't know what it's going to be yet. We've got a lot of cool games that are out there. There's cool shit coming out, like Cinder City is really neat looking. That used to be Project LLL from NCSoft. I'm a little bit worried about pay to win from them, but I'm excited for that game very much so, because I liked that world that they were building. There's a bunch of other ones like Chrono Odyssey. That looks cool as shit. We've always got our Lord and Savior, old school RuneScape, which I failed at slapping the crab. XP waste, no! You got Guild Wars 2, you got Final Fantasy 14, you got Block Game. Yeah, technically you got Block Game. So like, there's a lot of potential for other stuff we can do as a community. But like, this shit sucks, man.